House, come back to order, please. Take your seats. Well, when he comes up here, he's the first on the list. The members on the podium are first Governor Mitch Daniels, the Governor of Indiana. Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman. Senate President Pro Tem David Long. There are some in absentia. You're currently present. We'll just introduce you. Where is she at? Senator Lawson, you're not where you usually are. Senator Lawson, Majority Leader. Is the caucus chairman, James Merritt, here? Senate caucus chairman, Majority. These senators aren't as prompt as we are. Russ Stillwell, House Majority Leader. Majority Caucus Chairman Dale Grubb. Minority Leader Brian Bosma. Minority Floor Leader William Friend. Minority Caucus Chair Kathy Richardson. In the North Balcony, former Attorney General Steve Carter. Mrs. Amy McDonnell, wife of Chief Justice Shepard. Maddie Shepard, daughter of the Chief Justice. Mary K. Orr, wife of the late Governor Robert D. Orr. Jan Dixon, wife of the late, Jan Dixon, wife of Associate Justice Brent Dixon. The Honorable Greg Zeller, Attorney General. The Honorable Todd Rokita, Secretary of State. The Honorable Tim Berry, Auditor of State. The Honorable Dr. Tony Bennett, Superintendent of Public Instruction. Mr. Douglas Church, immediate past president of the Indiana State Bar Association. Mr. Roderick Morgan, President-elect, Indiana State Bar Association. Mrs. Julie Armstrong, Executive Director, Indianapolis Bar Association. Mr. Daniel Buba, President, Indianapolis Bar Association. Mr. James Voiles, President-elect, Indianapolis Bar Association. Members of the Indiana Judicial Qualification Commission, Ms. Christine Keck. Mr. John Trimble. Mr. Trimble is the law school classmate of the parliamentarian John Taylor. He's right over there. And former Supreme Court Justice Myra Selby. The justices are coming in to take their seats. I want to wait till they sit down. Let the record show that the caucus chairman, Majority Caucus Chairman James Merritt, is here. The Supreme Court justices that were here for the governor's speech and are here again today for the Chief Justice's speech, Justice Brent Dixon. Justice Frank Sullivan. Justice Robert Rucker. The Indiana Court of Appeals judges, Judge Edward Najam, Jr. Judge Patricia Riley. Judge Carr Darden. Judge Mark Bailey. Judge Melissa May. Judge Margaret Robb. Judge Nancy Vadick. Judge Paul Mathias. Judge Michael Barnes. Judge Terry Crone. Judge Cale Bradford. Judge Elaine Brown. The tax court judge, Thomas Fisher. It is again my honor to introduce Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman. What? Would they? Judges are seated. Say that again. Are the judges ready to enter? No. Escorting the judges today are Representatives Van Haften, Cook, and Clements, and Senators Kinley, Weiss, Arrington, and Taylor. Just for the record. Welcome, Senator Simpson. If the justices would advance forward, we'd appreciate it. And we will show our appreciation.
Family disputes resolved, or criminal violators be held accountable. Society runs on the trust that the answer to these questions will usually be yes, just as trust in the mechanics of finance empowers the real economy. Effective and reliable courts are a key part of the engine that keeps America going. Effective and reliable courts are especially important in times when the public and fallout of the recession, how it shows up in courts, and how Indiana's courts are doing our part to contribute toward recovery. It speaks the obvious that a bad economy puts pressure on families, many times in ways that affect children. And we see this in court in a rising number of new cases about abused and neglected children. This development renders all the more important and timely the decision of the 2008 General Assembly to reorganize Indiana's efforts to assist children who are in need of services and children in the delinquency system. The decision to transfer the cost of all that from the counties to the state was, to be sure, partly a matter of property tax relief, but it is also giving Indiana a chance to create a new safety net for children, one that's better staffed and better coordinated and more purposeful than ever. Governor Daniels signed this legislation in March, and the executive and judicial branches have acted with remarkable cooperation and a sense of urgency to make ready for the opportunity. A host of joint committees worked out the details, and by year's end, hundreds of people from courts and the Department of Child Services went through training and were ready when all this launched a week ago last Friday. House Bill 1001 from the last session was many things, but one of the most important things it was the single largest financial commitment to the needs of troubled children in our state's history, and we are determined that it will make a difference in their lives. Wrapped inside this initiative is a small story about government efficiency. Among the features of this new world is the need for people to be able to communicate with each other more quickly about children who are abused or neglected or in the delinquency system. And we have created an electronic exchange of information on juvenile cases between probation officers and courts and the Department of Child Services. Our trial court technology staff, led by Mary Depry, who is here today, collaborated with the Department of Child Services and its director, Jim Payne, who is here today, to construct on very short notice and without any general fund money a system to make this happen. They did it in-house, and it too was up and running by last week. The internal design of this system saved time and money, simple enough. But more important, more to the point, it will permit services and placement for threatened and troubled children more quickly and more effectively than we've done in the past. And it will allow Indiana to maximize the amount of federal reimbursement we claim for providing those services. Indiana has, over time, left on the table tens of millions of dollars that we could recoup from the federal government, and we didn't do it because we weren't well enough organized. No more. That money's going to come in the next few years. With abuse and neglect on the rise, all the more urgent it is that we provide threatened children with an advocate, a guardian ad litem, or a court-appointed special advocate. These advocates speak up for children, but they frequently do more than that. They are sometimes the only point of stability in a troubled child's world. A recent session of the General Assembly enacted Governor Daniels' proposal that all abused and neglected children should have such an advocate. Indiana has approached this in a way that is all at the same time humane and cost-efficient by recruiting community volunteers. And thousands of them have stepped forward to do that. You gave us money to recruit and retrain even a larger corps of volunteers, and that has worked. Last year, the number of new volunteers went to record levels, up 50% in a single year. A lot of people we have to thank for that, but we thank especially a wonderful cadre from the Indiana Retired Teachers Association. It's a match made in heaven, if there ever was one. We owe it to the teachers. Some of the stress on families that creates more cases of abused and neglected children manifests itself as domestic violence. And we've created an electronic system that notifies law enforcement the minute a domestic violence protective order is issued. We now have this system up and running in 72 counties, including Lake and Marion. Jackson County and Ohio County began using it last week. It went online in South Bend on Monday of this week. It is a line of defense that we have created entirely with federal money. It is literally saving lives. Building better protection against domestic violence is not something you postpone in hard times. It's something you race to accomplish, and that's exactly what we've tried to do. We also see hard times, you might imagine, in criminal court. The defendants we see there run the gamut from hardened felons all the way over to people who are so embarrassed by the fact that they got arrested for a misdemeanor that they sit up and fly right and we never see them again. I'm not talking about the guy who flew right to Florida. I'm talking... Thank goodness we have people who fly right and we never see them again. But most people fall in between those two poles, and most of them serve their sanctions on community corrections or on probation. In fact, at any given moment, about 6 times as many people are being held on tether, serving their sanctions on community corrections or on probation as there are at the Department of Correction. And so we have to be as smart as we can possibly be at matching the sanction, the penalty, to the offense and the offender, and we're trying to do that in multiple ways. I'm going to give you about one sentence on a number of them. First, challenging as it is to start something new when money is tight, last year we strengthened local correctional programs. We started 3 new drug courts in Valparaiso, in Kokomo, and Tell City, bringing the total to 29. Independent research of Indiana drug courts has demonstrated that they produce a lower offense rate, and general research shows that they produce a better employment rate, reemployment rate for offenders, all at a lower expense than the traditional sorts of penalties we're all familiar with. We also began last year 2 new local drug and alcohol programs and 3 new reentry courts to supervise people who are returning to their communities out of the Department of Correction. And this all is based on the wonderful model invented in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We devised a new system for safely transferring probation supervision across county lines, something that has never worked very well in the past, a system that will promote both public safety and the employment of offenders. And finally, we're at work on a new system of assessing the risk of individual offenders that will help courts and law enforcement sort out the errant sheep from the truly dangerous. This, too, will be good not only for public safety, but for the state's economy. Now, as you know, Indiana has created a system, now emulated in a number of other states, to organize and support attorneys who are willing to volunteer their time to citizens with civil legal problems who can't afford to hire a lawyer on their own. There are lawyers in the General Assembly. Brent Steele, for example, is a volunteer lawyer who takes time out of his law practice to volunteer to help people who can't afford to hire a lawyer. Fortunately, he has thousands of other compatriots in the legal profession who do exactly the same thing. And Indiana has over 1,000 trained and certified mediators who can help people resolve disputes on their own and avoid the time and expense of going to trial. We believe that these lawyers and mediators and judges can help with one of the growing challenges our people face: housing foreclosure. Indiana is no longer at the top of the national list of hurt, but we're not far behind. And the number of foreclosures filed in our state has gone up 50% in 5 years. Last year, we had more new foreclosure lawsuits filed than new divorce lawsuits filed. Now, the law and the public policy on these questions is made in the General Assembly and in the Congress. But whether courts are adroit at carrying out those policies in individual cases by the tens of thousands is crucial to homeowners, to landlords and tenants, and to lending institutions. Sorting out when loan modification may be feasible and when it's not, sorting out whether there's a way for this family to stay in their home or not, and doing all that on some respectable timetable as promptly as possible takes commitment, yes, but it also takes skill and knowledge. Now, Indiana's effort on the foreclosure problem is being led by Lieutenant Governor Skillman. She and the Housing and Community Development Authority have created the Indiana Foreclosure Prevention Network, which includes all the relevant players: lenders, the Bankers Association, realtors, government agencies, housing counselors. It includes Ivy Tech. I have told the Lieutenant Governor that the judicial branch would like to join in this campaign, and she has readily agreed. And whatever else we are able to contribute, I promise you this: by next summer, Indiana will have trained more judges and pro bono lawyers and mediators to help people who are facing foreclosure than any other state in America. Now, I want you to know, too, that we'll manage to do our own work in ways that contributes towards making budget. As you know, we joined the decision by Governor Daniels and the leadership of the General Assembly that froze our own pay and that of the people who work for us. But we're doing what we can to help the state's finances in other ways. I'm just going to mention 3. First, this time last year, we had just launched a new electronic ticket citation system. Gone are the handwritten tickets. The offender's license and the registration are scanned, and a legible ticket is printed on the spot. Gone, too, is all the time and the taxpayer money that was needed to enter and re-enter that information as it's generated by the, count 'em, 650 Indiana agencies that write citations. That new system, called Equus, is now in the hands of the state police and 57 other police and sheriff's departments this month. Floyd County and Griffith and New Albany and Pulaski County all began using it. It saves time and money wherever we are able to deploy it. Second, since this time last year, we've achieved universal use of our system that enables Indiana courts to send information about traffic cases to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles electronically, saving we don't even know how much in terms of paper and in the time it takes to enter and re-enter that data. And this is an achievement that will protect for Indiana $34 million in federal highway money that we would have lost if we had not been able to accomplish that system. Thank you. Third, on the revenue side, how much the state can collect in delinquent tax matters, and how quickly those collections come in depends in part on how promptly the Department of Revenue can process tax warrants through the trial courts. We worked with the Revenue Department to construct computer technology that sends tax warrant information directly and instantly to county clerks, all for free. This will produce not a massive, but a tangible contribution to the revenue forecast. We're committed to finding other ways we can do the same thing. Moments like the present, when great leap forwards are not in the cards much of the time, are particularly good occasions to plan about the future. The board of the Indiana Judicial Conference has spent the last few months planning for the long-range future of Indiana's court system. The board consists of judges elected by judges, mostly elected by trial judges, and a committee of the board led by Judge Terry Shoemaker of Elkhart and Judge Mark Stoner of Indianapolis, both with us today, has recently issued a working document now being discussed in local meetings. It focuses on 4 topics: improving judicial and staff education, on building collaboration among judges in counties and between counties, on accelerating state support for trial court operations, and on sorting out the multiple selection systems by which Indiana chooses judges. We believe that the end product will be a blueprint for an even stronger Indiana court system, a blueprint drawn by the men and women who will have to make it happen, Indiana's trial court judges. Finally, Governor Daniels quoted Abraham Lincoln on Monday, not by name. Something to do with word count, I suspect. But I want to close by telling you how the Judiciary is going to observe the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Abraham Lincoln was many things. He was a great president, a great emancipator, and a great Hoosier. And by the way, what is this stuff about Abraham Lincoln being given to the country by Illinois? On this point, I stand with Otis Bowen, who used to say, Indiana made Lincoln, and Lincoln made Illinois. But Abraham Lincoln was also a first-rate lawyer and an energetic public citizen whose experience as a lawyer gave him special insight into why making law and executing law and adjudicating law have been so important to the long-run success of what Washington called the American experiment. There are lessons about our national life and about citizenship that are worth celebrating and worth retelling. And so on Lincoln's birthday, the 12th of next month, with the help of teachers and the State Bar Association and local bars and others, hundreds of lawyers and judges will go to Indiana's classrooms to talk with tens of thousands of students about Abraham Lincoln, the president, Lincoln the lawyer, Lincoln the citizen, and about the kinds of engaged citizens we want those students to become when their time arrives. In the midst of so much gloom, it will be a message that causes reason for optimism by them about the future of our country and our state. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the state of your judiciary. Thank you for having me.
I thought this audience might be interested in the fact that the Chief Justice received the highest number of votes, the highest percentage of yes retention votes in the history of our state. So Hoosiers, appreciate your leadership. And on that note, this joint assembly is adjourned.